Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I'm very happy to welcome Michele DeFilippo here. And she is a book publisher. And the name of the company is 1106 Design.
Yes, that's correct. We're not actually a book publisher, but I can get into that.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. I've been in the book publishing industry in one form or another for about 52 years now. And so, as you can imagine, it's been quite a roller coaster, lots of changes in the industry, especially in the last 20 years. And so I decided there's some things that have happened in the industry that I don't think are beneficial to authors. And so that's why I started putting myself here out on podcasts to try to tell people that there is some information that they should have that they don't have. And that's my goal with this podcast and others, is to give authors the information they need to make the right choices when they are faced with an overwhelming number of possibilities as they seek to publish their book.
So, in this day and age, what does an author need in order to get their book out there?
Well, there's like I said, there's so many possibilities, and the typical mindset of authors is to think, okay, my manuscript is finished. Now I need to go find a publisher. Now, back in the day, that was a perfectly valid assumption, right? In traditional publishing, the publisher would pay the expenses to produce the book and then pay the author a royalty whenever a book was sold. The publisher would keep most of the revenue from sales in order to recoup that investment that they had made. Independent publishing, when it first became available to people with the introduction of Amazon, independent publishing meant that the author could now be the publisher. There were no gatekeepers. The author could publish the book they wanted to produce and keep all of the revenue from sales. It was assumed at that time that authors would want to produce a quality book, just like a traditional publisher would. They would pay the expenses to produce the book, and then they would keep all of the revenue. So that was really a great model. It was an opportunity that probably the best opportunity since Gutenberg for people to get their words out to the public. There were now no barriers. Anybody could put a book up on Amazon. So in the last 20 years, though, the field has gotten very complicated. There have been some good things and some bad things, but now we have a middle ground between those two publishing models that I just described. And these companies call themselves self-publishing companies. They might call themselves hybrid publishers. They might call themselves just publishers now without any adjectives whatsoever. But what they're doing is they're charging the author to produce the book, and they're taking their revenue from sales on the back end. And so a lot of authors don't realize that's happening. They don't think about how their royalty is calculated or whether they should be receiving a lower royalty at all. And so, that's my message, is to let authors know what they should be making when they publish a book. And if the company they're considering is not offering them that amount of money, then they should think a little bit more about it.
Well, with technology and the internet and all that, people can start a new business online and make it sound so wonderful. How does someone who wants to get into self-publishing know that they're not getting ripped off?
Well, the first thing I would recommend is do your research. Start reading blogs from people who have been in the industry a long time. Just start reading about how publishing works, so that if you are interviewing a company and they're not saying the things that you expect to hear or that you want to hear, you'll recognize it. It is very difficult. What we do in my company, 1106 Design, is we offer independent publishing the way it was originally intended. We help authors produce a quality book, keep control of their book, and make more money every time they sell a book. That's original self-publishing. It's not the model that is unfortunately most common today, just because small companies like mine just can't get found in the search engines. The bigger companies know how to work on Google so that their companies come up first. And so, and I feel sorry for authors because they should have more information. And that's why I'm doing this.
Now, do you help with editing and book design, covers and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, we do. We can start with the manuscript and we offer editing and cover design, interior design, proofreading, ebook formatting, and we help the author set up their accounts for POD distribution in their own name so that when a book is sold, they get the reports, they get the revenue, and everything is good and it's all on autopilot. When they work with a publisher, what happens is the publisher is setting up the POD account in their name. They get the reports, they get paid first. And typically they take some of that revenue before the author is paid a small royalty. Now, that would be fine if the publisher was investing in the book, but they're not. They're charging the author for services, and they're also taking the revenue on the back end. So that's my core message.
Okay, I want to get a little bit off track here because I'm really curious. I've interviewed a lot of authors, and it seems like everyone that comes on is the number one best-selling book on Amazon. How is that possible?
Well, it's not, and that's part of the problem and part of the issue that we deal with. There are companies that will promise to make your book a bestseller, but it's not a real bestseller, right? A real bestseller is calculated by the Nielsen Company based on bookstore sales. The authors who sold the most books in a given period of time. And it's listed in the New York Times. That is a true bestseller. If you run into a self-publishing company that wants to charge you to produce your book and they promise to make your book a bestseller, chances are what they're doing is they're listing your book in some obscure Amazon category. And they're getting a bunch of people together so that within a 45-minute period, let's say, lots of people buy your book within a single 45-minute period. And that tricks Amazon's computer into putting a bestseller tag on your book. And so the publisher takes a screenshot or the author takes a screenshot and says, see, I'm a best-selling author. But you were only a best-selling author for 45 minutes. It's fake. But it's a compelling argument.
I know a lot of people out there would love to get a story out, whether it's, I don't know, kind of an autobiography or just something that they've been thinking of for a long time. But do you come across some that are just absolutely awful?
Oh, I think everyone who serves authors gets that occasional awful book. But for the most part, I think authors are wonderful people. They put their heart and soul into the book. They work for months or years to perfect that manuscript. And that's why I think they deserve better when it comes time to publish that book and put it out in front of the public. What they deserve are experts who really care about their book, really care about helping them make it the best it can be, because everyone needs help. We don't see our own mistakes when we write. So at the very least, you need to have your manuscript edited, and then you need good design and good proofreading to catch all of those things that almost got away. You don't want your reader to find those mistakes. And so professional services are a must. That's another part of the industry that's kind of gone haywire, in my opinion, the do-it-yourself message. Self-publishing used to mean the author is the publisher, but it has become redefined as do-it-yourself publishing. And that's not true. It's never been true. In any business, you need training and experience to do the job well, and book publishing is no exception.
I get told all the time, you should write a book and tell your life story. And well, that's all great and wonderful, but I'm not a writer. I'm like, oh, just sit down and write. Just sit down and write. But you would be able to help me put out a good product.
Yeah, it's what we do every day. The first thing we do when a customer approaches us is to do an editorial evaluation, which is a 30,000-foot view of the quality of the text. And we make recommendations to the author about what they can improve, what they might want to change. Maybe they repeat themselves too often. Maybe they don't explain themselves as well as they should. So we'll give them a little bit of coaching in that regard and send the manuscript back to them and say, okay, here's what you need to improve in these areas. And then when they do that, then it comes back to us for an actual edit. And that's when the editor really focuses down on the nitty gritty, grammar, punctuation, style, that kind of thing to improve the manuscript. And everyone needs that. The Pope has an editor. Stephen King has an editor. You need an editor.
You ever come across anyone that tries to plagiarize?
Not to my knowledge. It's I hope that's never true.
What happens
Although with
if,
AI now, I'm kind of worried.
well, yeah, I mean, you can basically sit down and have this computer write your story for you.
Maybe. I don't know. I think AI is automated plagiarism, because where are they getting the information from? On the
Well,
billions of articles on the internet, right?
right. So what happens if you run across something like that? Do you have people that catch that?
Well, my editors do run manuscripts through some software program that they use, and once or twice we have had somebody flag some material that was in other publications. But there's a distinction here, okay? It's perfectly okay to cite other sources as long as you give credit to the original author. Put a footnote, or a source in a listing at the back of the book. There's really very little original information now. There's new perspectives on existing information. So nobody can write a completely original book, but you do have to be just a nice person and cite the source. Don't claim it as your own work if it's not.
Who's been the biggest seller that you've had so far?
The people who do the best of all of our customers are the business people. They will basically have it through a book. They'll have an opportunity to tell people about what they do, what their expertise is, how it can benefit the customer, the reader, and that will get them more business for their own businesses than just about anything else they can do. I'm actually an example of that. I've put out a little booklet called Publish Like the Pros, which is free to everybody who wants one, from my website at 1106design.com. And what a book allows you to do is to tell your story to the customer, but not put that customer under pressure. Maybe they just want to find out if you're a right fit before they contact you. If they go ahead and contact you first, then they're worried about getting a sales pitch. So a book is kind of a soft sell. It lets people learn about you and then contact you if they feel it's a good fit.
But you bring up something about the like free books and things like that. How are you able to do that?
Say that again?
Whenever you put out a book and it's for free, how are you able to do that?
Oh, well, it's easy to release a book in PDF form. That's what I've done with my little booklet here. I let people download it from my website, and to me, that's just chalk that up to marketing. It doesn't cost very much to do that. You cannot offer a book for free on Amazon, except for, maybe you can gift someone a book if you want to, but you still have to pay for it.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I know there's the PDF, but sometimes people have a physical book that they just give away. And how can you do that? I mean,
Well, it's really a very low cost way to market, right? Printing a book might be $3 or $4. And if that's the cheapest form of advertising there is, other than your own time and effort on social media, maybe. But even that has a cost, because you have to think about what you would be doing otherwise with that time.
and there's another point that you bring up, the cost. If an author is wanting to get into this, what are the costs?
Well, for a typical, now I'm talking about doing it right. Okay, the authors are going to find a lot of information online from people who cut corners and don't do it right. So I don't want you to be shocked by this, but to do a typical nonfiction book, 200 pages or so the right way, it's going to cost about $9,000. And that's everything from editing all the way through to distribution setup and answering 200 or 300 of your questions along the way. That's typical.
Wow. $9,000.
Yeah.
How about the cost of getting a cover done?
Well, that's included.
Well, I mean, do you
That's
have a
included. But
breakdown of that?
yeah, if people go to our website, I believe in complete transparency. I have all of my services listed with prices so they can determine for themselves what they're interested in. And I give people choices based on different budgets that they may have.
Why would you do this? I mean, other people would be wanting to try to make as much money off of these things as possible, but you're trying to do things the right way. Why?
Well, I was raised that way, and I also survived Catholic school. So the nuns who taught me are dead, but I think they're still watching.
Well, that's a good point.
No, it's real. I mean, that I make jokes about it, but it's the golden rule. How would you want to be treated? Right? If you live your life that way, then it feels good to you and it doesn't take advantage of anybody else.
And you've been doing this for 52 years?
Started when I was 19. My first job was at Crown Publishing in New York.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how many books have you written?
Excuse me?
How many books have you written?
I've written only this one little booklet,
Just
but
the
we've
one?
published more than 4,000 books for people.
Oh,
And
wow.
I wanted to get into that. We're not a publisher, we're a service provider. So when people work with us, we never take a penny of their revenue other than the services we charge for. So we get them set up with print on demand in their own name so that when a book is sold, they get the full payment delivered directly to their bank account. We don't control their book. We don't take any of their money.
And how did you come up with 1106 design?
Well, the company was formed in 2001 after I got divorced. So by that time, I could not find a graphic design company name, a domain name. So I used my birthday.
Ah, okay. Now we know
Yeah.
your birthday. Everybody can send you a gift.
Every
And
birthday is a value at this age.
do y'all help like with the social media part of it as well?
What I do is we don't actually do the marketing ourselves, but what I do is I refer our authors to 3 marketing people that I trust with my life. They're small business owners just like we are, and they will not take an author's money if they don't think they can deliver results. So authors can have a conversation with them and see if there's a good fit there. One of the people I recommend does what she calls author marketing coaching. And that is one-on-one training, teaching the author how to promote themselves and their book online through social media. And that has been very popular. People love that. The cool thing about it is that it's one-on-one so that there's no embarrassment. You don't have to worry about looking dumb in front of anybody else who's in the class. She'll start wherever you are. If you've never heard of Twitter, she'll start there. If you have some social media experience, she'll build on what you already know and teach you how to turn that into author marketing. And so people do love that service.
Things have changed quite a bit throughout the years.
Oh, yes. My claim to fame is that Steve Jobs put me out of business around 1990. That was one of my earlier businesses.
But it'd probably be a lot easier now than what it was back in the day.
In some ways, yes. When I look back on the way we used to put books together with cutting and pasting, what they used to call mechanicals. You used to put a book together. You actually had to buy typesetting from an outside source, cut each page the way you wanted it, and paste it down on illustration board and bring it to a printer so that they could take a picture of it and then print the book. When I look back on that now, I think, how did we ever get anything done? So now it's all done on computer, of course, and that's good. It's more productive for sure, but it also allows for everyone to get into the field, which is great if you know what you're doing. But if you get into it and you don't know what you're doing, there's can be some terrible books released.
So back in the 70s, how long would it have taken to actually publish and get a book out there?
Oh God, well, back in the 70s, there were only traditional publishers pretty much. So you couldn't publish a book yourself unless
Right.
you worked directly with a printer. But to actually put it together would take days because, think of 200 or 300 page book. You'd have to cut every page and paste it in place. And then somebody would find a mistake and you'd have to replace a word with an X-Acto knife and kind of wedge that word into the line where it belonged. It's crazy when you think about it, but that was the technology at the time.
And how long does it take today?
It still takes a while because even though we have a computer,
Hmm.
there's way more to typesetting a book than just choosing a font and setting up the margins. That's what they call formatting, right? That's just basic putting a page together. But book typesetting is different. We have dozens and dozens of rules that we follow. For example, we never want the first line of a paragraph at the bottom of a page because that makes the reader stop. It
Hmm.
creates a pause, and then they have to go find the rest of the paragraph at the top of the next page. And likewise, we never want the last line of a paragraph at the top of a page for the same reason. So we typesetters work to avoid distractions more than anything else. And the text doesn't automatically fall that way. When you see it happen, you have to go and fix it. So it could be very time consuming depending on the nature of the text. Sometimes we'll get a book where another one of the rules is that a paragraph should never end on one short word, right?
Hmm.
And sometimes, I don't know why this happens. Sometimes every paragraph in a book will end in a short word, and you have to go back and spend the time to fix that. And that's very tedious.
Where do you get your love for books?
Oh gosh, Catholic school, right?
Catholic school.
We went home for the summer with 20 books to read, and we would test it on it in the fall. So no, but I've always loved to read, and so it was kind of natural that when I chose what to do in school, that I chose design and graphics and wound up in the publishing business.
I remember as a kid, and this was in the 70s, we would, during the summer, the library would have some little initiative like you read so many books and
Hmm.
then you'd get a coupon for like a McDonald's hamburger or a shake or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But that's how I think we all loved to read back then. But yeah, nowadays I don't know if kids love reading as much.
Well, I hope it's still being encouraged because books are really a window into the world,
Mhm.
right? There's no limit to what you can learn if you read, even aside from just the entertainment value.
To me, your brain starts putting you like in the place of the characters that you're reading about.
Mhm.
So it's an escape.
Yeah. And it's an education. I love historical novels. That's my favorite genre.
Oh, yes. There's something about history that I've always loved as well. But the website is 1106 Design, and I'm assuming that's on social media as well.
Yes, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Okay. Just just those.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. I can't be on any more than that. We have to get some work done sometime. But anybody who goes to the website can download my free book, and that's a quick survey. It's 88 pages. It's a quick read. It's a survey of what to expect if you are about to publish a book and things to avoid, and the financial model of what to look for and how you're going to be paid for that book. And we have a contact form there. We would happy to talk to anybody, no cost, no obligation. Above all, I want authors to be educated. There isn't just one choice for everybody, but I want to make sure that authors make an informed choice, not just a sales pitch.
And they can talk to you one on one.
Yes, and I also have a salesman named Ben who helps me with calls, and he will usually start the conversation, then I'll send a proposal for services, and then I'll talk to the author first after that. But
That's
I'll talk to anybody. If the author wants to talk to me directly, have them put that on the contact form, and that's what will happen.
Well, I will put all your links in the description to make it easy for folks to find you. Michele, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Carl. I so appreciate this.
Of course. And also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. And for my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts. And on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network